I never believed in fate until hope brought me back from the edge of despair. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sun seemed to disappear behind gray clouds, casting a heavy shadow over my heart. My hands trembled as I faced the reality of my shattered world. It felt like a cruel joke, crafted by the universe just for me. My sister, Mia, always said there was magic in the ordinary. But that day, all I saw was emptiness. She had been my rock, my constant. Her laughter could light up the darkest times. Now, it felt like a distant echo, leaving a hollow ache deep within me. Our family was a tapestry, woven with love and memories. But one bad decision unraveled it all. I could still hear my mother's voice, trembling. "You have to choose, Sam. Not everything can stay." Her words cut deep, branding me with guilt. And that argument sharp and jagged like glass blade in my head on an endless loop. I had taken a stand, yet it cost me everything. The weight of regret pressed down on me, suffocating. There was nowhere to escape. I walked through the abandoned streets, their silence heavy, my heart pounding against my ribs. Each step echoed like a drumbeat of despair. I needed a glimmer of hope, but shadows clung to me like a second skin. Then, out of nowhere, I saw a flicker of light. It called to me, drawing me closer. My heart raced, defying the heaviness in my chest. I stepped inside the small, dimly lit bookstore, a world apart from my sorrow. Dust particles danced in the sunlight, seeping through the cracks of the old wooden door. My fingers brushed over the spines of books, reliving stories of hope and tragedy. Why did this place feel enchanted? I could feel anticipation crackling in the air. The owner, an elderly woman with kind eyes, handed me a fragile, leather-bound book, her smile warm yet mysterious. "This one has a story that resonates. Find your truth within." Her words lingered, like fragile birds fluttering in my chest. What truth did I even seek? As I held the book, a chill ran down my spine. What secrets did it hold? I dared to open it. The pages whispered to me, carrying the weight of untold wonders. And then, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed something glowing, a hidden message shimmering like a beacon of possibility. What if it was a clue? A sign that everything could change? I couldn't breathe. My heart raced. The possibilities were overwhelming. But what if I couldn't handle the truth? What if fate was steering me toward a path I wasn't ready to face? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The light from the bookstore's window flickered, drawing me further into its embrace. As I hesitated with the leather-bound book cradled in my hands, I felt like an intruder in a realm where possibility danced freely, mocking my despair. My heart raced, caught between the urge to turn away and the desperate need to uncover what lay within those worn pages. I opened the book, and the familiar scent of aged paper filled the air, the words blurred into a haze of emotion. A story within a story unfolded, a tale of a woman who lost everything but found her strength through the very depths of her pain. I felt each line pulse with a heartbeat, matching the rhythm in my own chest. I was not just reading. I was bearing witness to someone else's sorrow, and in that connection, somehow, I began to feel less alone. Suddenly, the bell above the shop door chimed softly, breaking the spell. I turned to see a young boy, no older than 8, stumble in with wide eyes. His messy hair framed a face marked by innocence, but it was the tremor in his hands that caught my attention. He glanced nervously around the bookstore, as if he were a ghost haunting a place he once knew. "Can I help you?" the elderly woman asked, her voice gentle, as she approached him. That he fidgeted, his small frame trembling like a leaf. "I don't have much, but I want to find a book about hope. For my mom." The woman's gaze softened. She knelt down to his level, offering a warm smile that seemed to dissolve some of his fear. "Hope is a powerful magic, my dear. Come, let's find you something special." Watching their interaction, my heart swelled with an unspeakable ache. The boy's simple, earnest desire to help his Mothera flicker of light amidst the grayness of my own life. I couldn't help but wonder if he could see the same potential for hope that eluded me. It was then that I realized how intertwined our paths were. A boy desperate for hope, a woman who had witnessed unimaginable grief, and myself, adrift amid regrets and uncertainty. As I remained in the shadows of the bookstore, I felt the stirrings of warmth within me. Perhaps the universe was delivering not just my truth, but a reminder of the power of empathy, of connection. I stepped out into the open, moving closer to the boy and the woman. "Excuse me," I said softly, summoning all my courage. "Is there any way I can help?" They turned toward me. The boy's eyes surprisingly brightened at the prospect of shared kindness. "I just want to make her happy," he repeated, determination spilling from his mouth, even as his small fingers gripped a dog-eared book about adventures. "Maybe we can find something more," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper, "something that speaks to both of you." The boy nodded vigorously, eyes wide with newfound hope as I guided him through the shelves, sharing a smile with the elderly woman as we bonded over the boy's mission. It was a small act of kindness, insignificant in the grand scheme of my turmoil, yet it felt monumental. When I returned to the leather-bound book, I flipped through the pages again, hoping to uncover the secrets again, but the messages seemed to dance out of reach. The hidden message that once shone brightly now felt dim. Darkness bore down on me once more, swirling with confusion and the weight of my regrets. In the midst of this, the bell rang again. The sound sliced through the momentary bliss I had found. A figure emerged on the threshold, drenched in shadows, someone familiar. It was MIA's best friend, Alex, with a look of urgency etched on his face. He stepped inside, glancing from me to the elderly woman with a frantic energy. "Sam, we need to talk." "It's about Mia," he said, breathless, and in that moment, my heart dropped. As the atmosphere shifted rapidly from warmth to cold, I felt the walls of my newfound hope begin to crack. The boy's laughter echoed in my ears, a stark contrast to the dread that filled my chest. Beneath the weight of my grief and uncertainty, the light I had glimpsed flickered. The promise of hope, once so enticing, now loomed as an unwelcome shadow. I could feel the choices before me weighing heavily, their potential echoing in the loud silence of the bookstore. What news could Alex possibly bring? And was I ready to face whatever awaited me on that path? As I stood there, torn between the vulnerable heart of new connections and the haunting fear that flooded back, I wondered if I could keep carrying the burdens of my past while embracing the hint of hope I so desperately sought. The shadows etched on the bookstore's walls seemed to deepen as Alex's words hung in the air, drawing in the light and leaving only unease. I searched his eyes for reassurance, but all I found was an urgency that mirrored the knot tightening in my stomach. "Well, what about Mia?" Alex ran a hand through his hair, glancing away as if struggling to find the right words. For a moment, I imagined that I could hear the boy's laughter fading, replaced with a dull thud in my chest. My heart felt as though it might implode from the weight of the fear pressing down on me. "MIA's in trouble. She didn't show up at home last night," he finally said, his voice grave. "Her phone's off. I think something might have happened." My breath hitched, and the world spun slightly. The thought of Miami best friend, my compass lost and alone, strangled me. Reality closed in, vivid and cruel, reminding me of the impending darkness that never seemed too far away. I could scarcely process the implications of Alex's words. "We need to find her," I said, determination overtaking the panic rising within me. "We will," Alex replied, his tone softening as he stepped closer. "But first, I thought you should know. I received a text from her just before she vanished. It didn't make sense, Sam. She said something about feeling trapped. I tried calling her back, but that's when everything went dark. That I clutched the leather-bound book tighter, its texture grounding me amidst the tempest of my emotions. The boy observed us curiously, his innocent gaze catching the tension radiating through the air. I saw him hold the adventure book closer, as if it could shield him from the reality unfolding around us. I wanted to comfort him, to remind him that stories often lead to safety, but the spiraling chaos in my own heart left me unable to muster the words. "That I am going with you," I declared, shaking off the despair that threatened to suffocate me. Underneath the fear, I could feel the ember of purpose igniting within me, fueled by both the urgency of Alex's news and the kindness I had shared moments earlier with that small boy. It felt like a lifeline thread connecting my fractured soul to the world. Perhaps it was what I needed most in this bewildering chapter of my life. Are you sure? We have no idea where to start, Alex said, visibly relieved but still wary. It doesn't matter. I can't just sit here and wait, I insisted, my voice steadier now. Let's just go. We stepped out of the bookstore together. But the weight of the boy's small hopes and dreams lingered with me, a bittersweet reminder of potential amidst turmoil. As the streetlights flickered to life, the glow illuminated the path before us, casting shadows that followed our every step. I in the car. The silence was heavy, punctuated only by the low hum of the engine. I could feel Alex's tension beside me, each movement a reminder of the uncertainty clouding our mission. Do you think she's safe? I asked, though the question felt natural, its answer hanging like a gaping void between us. I hope so, he replied, his honesty crackling in the air, but I don't want to think otherwise. Yeah, I murmured, feeling a flicker of solidarity in our shared anxiety. Our thoughts danced around the same fears, yet amidst the tremor of hopelessness, a sudden determination surged through me. A call to action, a plea for courage. Nothing would extinguish the flame that flickered through connection. Yet as we drove deeper into the unfamiliar streets where Mia often frequented, a sense of foreboding washed over the landscape, filtering into my thoughts. Each shuttered window we passed seemed to whisper secrets I couldn't grasp. Suddenly, Alex's phone buzzed violently, breaking the thick silence. He glanced at it, his face paling as he read the screen. It's a message. It's from Mia's phone. Without waiting for him to share the contents, a knot formed in my throat at the thought of it being her last known words. His expression twisted into something unbearable. She's at the old train station. But it says, "Don't follow me." A chill raced down my spine, alerting every instinct within me. What? No. We can't just leave her there, Alex. We need to go? But his hesitation settled heavily between us. What if she's trying to protect us? What if something's wrong and she doesn't want to lose us, too? Even as he voiced the thought, I could see uncertainty lacing his features, deepening the storm of worry in my chest. The thought of Mia, Alana scared tearing at my heart, was too much to bear. We can't turn back now. We have to trust that she needs us, I insisted, that flicker of hope turning into a flame of urgency. As he turned the car toward the station, I felt an overwhelming swell of emotion crashing over me. I thought of the boy back in the bookstore, his radiant smile lit by pure, innocent hope. It suddenly occurred to me how deeply intertwined our narratives. Where he was searching for light, I was chasing after the darkness that beckoned me back. Arriving at the train station, we found the remnants of old memories lying dormant in the cool night air. The eerie quiet enveloped us as we stepped out of the car, the air thick with unvoiced fears. I felt Alex's hand tighten around my wrist as we approached the looming structure. Are you ready? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. No, I admitted, but there was no turning back. The knot of dread pulled tighter, and yet amid the turmoil, I felt dangerously alive. As we crossed the threshold into the dilapidated station, the echo of our footfalls reverberated ominously, as though we were intruders in a sacred space. The scent of rust and memories hung in the air, drawing dark shapes around us. Suddenly, a creak pierced the silence, and from the darkness, I heard a voice familiar, yet distant. Sam? Alex? It was Mia. And there, in the shadowy recesses of the station, I saw her outline blurred and trembling before us. The flickering lights above died into a nervous hum, leaving us in suspense. And just before she could speak again, I noticed something concealed in her hands. My breath caught as dread crept over me anew. What had drawn her into this haunting place? And what if we weren't prepared for what was to come next? Mia stood before us, her frame casting an uncertain silhouette against the dim light of the crumbling station. She looked like a ghost, fragile and lost, yet so very real, as if the shadows were cradling her just enough to keep her tethered to this world. I could hardly breathe, the shock of finding her turning my heart into a frantic, helpless drum. Mia, I breathed, stepping cautiously forward, the urge to envelop her in warmth battling with a profound fear of what I'd find when I reached her. Alex mirrored my movement, his gaze shifting between us, searching for answers that seemed buried deeper than we could understand. I didn't know how else to say it. She stammered, her voice wavering like a flickering candle. I thought I could deal with it myself. I thought I was keeping you safe. In her hands, I glimpsed the object that had drawn all of us here, a small, worn-out journal, its cover barely clinging to its seams. Safe. Mia, what were you thinking? My voice cracked, the mixture of relief and anxiety fighting for dominance. We were going to find you. We thought. I know, she interrupted, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. I got your message. I didn't want to bring you here. What's in the journal? Alex asked, impatience threading through his concern. You're scaring us. Her shoulders sagged as if the weight of the world had dropped upon them. It's all I've had for weeks. It's filled with things I didn't know how to confront, she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. Things I couldn't tell you, things I thought I could handle alone. The air became thick with unspoken truths, and I reached for the journal, a desperate instinct pushing me forward. Mia hesitated, but then, as if sensing my resolve, she placed it gently into my hands. The moment I opened it, a wave of familiarity flooded over meth. Ages-old secrets and echoes of our past breathed life through each pinned page that I skimmed through, heart racing as words unfolded like velvet on the page. Descriptions of nightmares, experiences she had locked away, abandonment, heartbreak, dread of disappointing those she loved. Each entry bore her essence, exposing a vulnerability that reminded me how completely unaware I had been of her storm. That a lot of this. Mia, why didn't you tell us? The tears began to brim in my eyes, a torrent of emotions crashing against the walls I had built around myself. I wanted to unearth every pain she had endured, wrapping her in the comfort of unconditional understanding. But I was also fighting my own sorrow, the fear that we were too late to save her from whatever had transpired. I thought I could handle it. I didn't want to pull you into my darkness, she replied, her voice breaking like a string fraying under pressure. But then things got worse. I started seeing things, dark figures, and I felt them closing in around me. Like something was pulling me into the darkness. That a surge of protectiveness sparked within me, overpowering the sense of dread. You're not alone, Mia. We need to face this together, I said, squeezing her hand gently. But even as the words left my mouth, a shadow in the corner of the station flickered, catching my eye. I turned instinctively, an icy tendril of fear gripping my spine. Mia, did you hear anything? Around me. You thought you could run, didn't you? The world around us darkened, and I could see Mia's pulse racing in the hollow of her throat. I glanced at Alex, hoping we would find resolve in each other's eyes, but the dawning horror was mirrored in his own expression. The door we had entered through had vanished. We were ensnared in a web spun by our deepest fears. That I could feel the temperature drop, an invisible weight pressing down upon us as the shadows began to twist and writhe, forming shapes I couldn't comprehend. My heart thundered in my chest, an incessant beat reminding me that time was slipping through our fingers. Mia, trust us, I urged, though my voice wavered, betraying the fear lacing my resolve. We're not leaving you. But just before she could respond, the ground beneath us began to tremble, and the shadows erupted, enveloping us in a vortex of darkness that swallowed our voices, our breaths. I gripped Mia's arm, my determination intertwining with sheer desperation. In that moment, I realized hope wasn't just a flicker. It was the fire we needed to withstand the gathering storm. Terror clutched at my heart. I still believed against every logical thought that we would find a path back to light. But before I could voice my thoughts, the darkness closed around us completely, drowning my last words in an unimaginable silence. And then, in the choking void, I heard Mia's voice, trembling yet strengthened. Whatever is out there, well, face it together. But whose voices would rise to meet us from that terrifying abyss? And would they be our own? The stillness that enveloped us deepened into something suffocating, a silence so profound that even my heartbeat felt muted. I clung to the sound of Mia's voice, a fragile anchor in this unholy dark, but the shadows pushed back, threatening to drown us in despair. Mia, Alex shouted, his voice cracking, barely piercing the shroud around us. We have to move. We can't just. The ground quaked again. A low rumble rising from below vibrated through the soles of my feet. The shadows wriggled like strands of smoke, blurring our surroundings, and warping the remnants of our reality. I felt MIA's warmth next to me, a reminder of life, but the fear draped over us like a heavy quilt made of dread. "Mia, please, don't let go," I managed, feeling the pressure of impending darkness loom over us, thick and unforgiving. I squeezed her hand tighter, a lifeline forged in desperation. "We can fight through this. Together." There was a flicker in her eyes, a spark that hinted at the fire I had glimpsed sparking within her stronger, blazing with a defiance born of pain. "I know," she whispered, and even in the depth of despair, I could see her spirit beginning to flicker back to life. If sensing the shift, the shadows twisted momentarily, forming shapes that seemed to taunt us, shadows that whispered our fears, appraised our most harrowing thoughts. I could hear fragments of my own anxious worries spiraling around me, taste the bitterness of doubt as it seeped into my psyche. "Stay with me, both of you," Alex shouted, his normally steady voice tight with emotion, anchoring me against the tide of despair. The shadows pulsed, retreating from the clutches of our connection. If only for a moment, I took a step forward, drawing strength from the bond we shared. Alone, we are vulnerable. But together, we can do anything. My words were a defiance of the dark, an invocation of hope against the tide of horror that surrounded us. Mia nodded, her hand finding the small journal on the ground, its spine cracked, pages fluttering with the movement of unseen winds. "It's not just about me," she said urgently. "These pages hold my fears, yes, but they also reflect our memories, the good ones. We've faced challenges before, and this time is no different." And with conviction in her eyes, she opened the journal, letting the pages flutter wildly as shadows lapped at the edges. The words began to shimmer, mundane descriptions of shared laughter, quiet moments shared beneath the stars. They illuminated the darkness for a fleeting instant, granting us flickers of light amongst gnarled shapes that I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Watching the darkness recoil, hesitating at the cascade of light spilling from MIA's memories. It reminded me of joy, friendship, and a sense of belonging so deep-rooted it could ground us. Even now, as the pages glowed, the voice that had haunted us fell silent for a heartbeat. The darkness shuddered, and I could feel it quivering in response to the emergence of hope. It was fleeting but potent, inflating the atmosphere around us with warmth like sunlight breaking through clouds after a storm. "Mia, keep reading," Alex urged, his eyes glinting with unspoken hope that almost spread like wildfire between us. Mia steadied her breath, her voice steadying even as the shadows threatened to creep back. "These are the things that bind us, the moments we have survived, the laughter and despair, the promises made." And as she continued, details etched themselves into the void. Fears faced, harsh words that turned into lessons learned, the bonds forged through shared pain and triumph. It became a symphony of hope, a cacophony of love resonating through the darkness. But just as we dared to believe we were reclaiming our light, the shadows roared back, snarling and twisting, revealing a wall of darkness that rose to meet us. I gasped as shapes began to emerge, reflections of our deepest fears, grotesque and distorted, looming larger with every step Mia took backward in horror. "What are you? What do you want?" Mia shouted, her voice wavering but determined, a whisper of her growing strength fighting through. "You can't keep me. We aren't afraid of you anymore." With each proclamation, the shadows shivered, uncertain, as if our defiance challenged their very existence. Clarity pierced the fog around us, but just then, a deafening hiss echoed, drowning out our resolve and sending shockwaves through my heart. The moment of stillness clung thickly in the air, and just when I believed we had our footing once more, a towering dark figure emerged from the shadows, unfurling like a nightmare given form. Its eyes were a swirling abyss, and as it loomed closer, I could feel its intense echo of despair seeping into my very soul. "You shouldn't have come here," it rasped, the voice sending chills along my spine, a twisted mockery of humanity. And as its hand reached towards us, I could feel my heart plummet, an impending sense of dread crashing over me like an unforgiving wave. In that moment, darkness seemed to meld itself into a cruel grip around our chance of survival, as uncertainty loomed larger than before. Were our connections enough? Could the light of our shared memories overcome this nightmare? Or would we fall into that chilling void, consumed, never to rise again? With desperation igniting in my veins, I cried out, "Together, remember? We won't yield." As the figure closed in, the lingering question haunting me like a chill lingering in the air: was it truly the end? Or would hope find a way once more? The shadow loomed, an oppressive mass that darkened the flickering light around us, as if it thrived off the fear radiating from our desperate hearts. My pulse quickened, echoing in my ears like a war drum, and with each beat, the darkness grew heavier, pressing against my chest. I could feel Mia's hand tighten around mine, and her breath was shaky, but in that tremor, there was a resilience that ignited a spark within me. "Remember," I whispered, pushing the fear down, forcing it into a corner of my mind. "We have each other. Every laugh, every push against despair is with us." The words were barely a murmur, but even they felt like a challenge to the encroaching dread. "Mia," Alex's voice interjected, thick with urgency, "whatever happens now, we face it together. You're not alone." The conviction in his tone sparked something deeper, knitting our fates back together like frayed ends of a troubled tapestry. But the figure pressed forward, its eyes swirling with familiar regrets, lost opportunities, unspoken words between us, betrayals lingering like echoes of thunder. I was struck by how it mirrored the ghosts of my own fear, the haunting memories I never allowed to slip from the edges of my mind. "Mia, visualize the laughter," I urged, squeezing her hand tighter. "Define our bond. Let it fight for us." Her breath steadied slightly, and she nodded, remembrance glimmering in her eyes. "The fireflies by the lake," she breathed, her voice almost a prayer. "And the warmth of summer nights spent beneath the stars." Each word swept over us like a balm, momentarily soothing the turbulence within. I felt the darkness hesitate, almost recoiling at the thought of joyful memories spilling between us. "Those moments are ours," I added, pulling inspiration from the flickers of light that preceded the shadows, refusing to let go. "They cannot take them away." The shadows flickered, pressed back, but the towering entity was relentless, its fingers reaching forward, stretching through the space, searching for our weaknesses. I could feel the ice of its curse grazing against my skin, hungry, yearning for despair, but I refused to bend. I would stand in a surge of hope. I turned to Alex, the bond between us as palpable as the fabric of the universe. "Remember what you said yesterday by the old oak? About strength? About pushing beyond?" He inhaled deeply, determination rising in his chest like a flame unwilling to be extinguished. "Yes, even in darkness, we're stronger than this." The conviction in his voice ignited embers in my heart, reminding me why we fought against the darkness, against our fears, against giving in. With every shared memory, our unified strength brightened, loud echoes filling the void, refusing to concede to the nightmares lurking. "We stand together," I shouted, our voices weaving a tapestry of defiance. Then came a flicker of light. The shadows were retreating, the figure wavering as if its very essence was being stripped away. I could see the hesitation in its monstrous gaze, an unexpected flicker of uncertainty ripping through its confidence. It howled in frustration, a chilling, bone-deep sound that rattled my ego and sent a fresh wave of fear crashing through me. "You think your memories protect you? I am your fears made flesh. I am the end of hope." "No." Mia's voice rang out, clear and resolute. "You are nothing more than a reflection of what we once feared and have begun to conquer." With newfound resolve, she recited our shared story, a sacred rhythm echoing, synchronizing our breaths into a single heartbeat against the encroaching darkness. Every moment of joy, every challenge faced, they are why we refuse to yield. Alex added, each word laced with the conviction that was cementing our resolve. The space around us shimmered like a mirage, the memories we conjured becoming tangible, luminous threads weaving together to form a shield. The figure faltered, shrank slightly as the warmth overwhelmed it, but dominion still flickered in its eyes, an unsettling reminder that we were not yet free. "You can't escape me," the shadow roared, clutching at the memories we cherished, its fingers curling around the edges of our hope. But then something shifted. It felt more than a mere response to our declarations. It felt like the beginnings of something closer to an emergence, an awakening. I felt Mia's warmth overflow and wrap around us, almost like a classroom of sunlight breaking through the winter sky, dispelling solitary winter clouds. "Hold on," I yelled, my heart racing as I pressed my palm against the barrier rising with all our recollections. Shadows writhed beneath our light, rage bubbling in protest, but the specter wouldn't perish without one last effort to devour our joy. Then, in a heartbeat, like a stroke of cruel fate, the world shifted. The ground beneath us trembled violently, a quake resonating through our souls, and with it came an eruption of shadows spiraling upward, a chaotic tempest eager to engulf us whole. In that moment of chaos, I saw Mia stumble, and everything inside me twisted her light, our bond, all threatening to collapse like a house of cards teetering on the edge. "Mia," I screamed, reaching out as shadows clawed at the air, eager to grasp the very essence of her. In an instant, the connection that had tied us together snapped, and my heart plummeted into the abyss as I watched her silhouette swallowed whole by the dark. "No!" The scream tore from my lungs, the bittersweet taste of despair clashing with the last remnants of hope I'd gathered. In the face of such darkness, it felt like every prayer had been snuffed out, and the light we'd fought so hard to hold on to spiraled away. With a heart heavy and lost, I felt the darkness surge around me like a tidal wave, the encroaching horror threatening to drown all that was left of my resolve. Alone, the shadows snapped closer than ever, and I was left on the precipice of my own fear, staring into a void from which I might never return. Was this truly the end? Or could I rise from the ashes, even now, knowing she had fallen? I took a breath, forcing away the nausea of despair, clutching the fragments of our memories that remained. Together I whispered into the void, my voice trembling against the suffocating silence. But this time, it felt different, darker. Was there still a way to reclaim hope? Or was fate irrevocably altering the course of our lives as we spiraled toward the abyss? The darkness roared like a tempest, swirling around me in billowing waves, relentless and suffocating. Each deep breath tasted of ash and fear, yet my heart thudded with a semblance of life, a pitiful pulse against the encroaching void. "Mia," I called again, my voice fractured, diminishing against the cacophony of shadows. The sight of her being consumed sent shockwaves through my being, igniting a fire of desperation within me. My hands trembled as I clawed at the air, but there was no trace of her warmth, no indication that my outcry had reached her. The silence that swallowed my cries felt as ominous as the shadow itself. Yet, amidst that crushing solitude, a flicker of resilience stirred like embers being kindled back to life. Mia's laughter, echoing from the recesses of my Minda, sounds so pure, so life-affirming, pushed against the dull ache of despair. We had shared something beautiful. Our bond was a light that could not be extinguished so easily. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the gloom, not monstrous or twisted, but subtle, a silhouette softened by the muted shadows. My breath caught as I squinted through the darkness, uncertainty pooling in my stomach. It was Alex, his expression a mix of anguish and determination, the strength behind his eyes somehow reassuring against the overwhelming darkness. "Eli?" he shouted, his voice a lifeline in the sea of despair. "We need to hold on to that light. We can't let it fade." I forced myself to steady my breath, searching for words that would glue together the fragments of hope swirling in my heart. "But Mia," I began, the mention of her name cracking the fragile facade I managed to hold up. "Don't." He stepped closer, his hands gripping my shoulders. "If we give in to the fear of losing her, then she is truly gone. We have to fight for her, for us." His conviction wrapped around me like a warm scarf, tender yet firm. "What can we do?" The question, steeped in desperation, hung heavily between us. "We've faced darkness before," he said, pinning me with his gaze, highlighting the flicker of defiance. "Let's summon our memories again. Call upon everything we shared, the laughter by the lake, the dreams we built, the glimmers of love." The thought sparked something within me, a bright thread woven through the fabric of my despair. "You're right." I closed my eyes, letting the warmth of those memories flood my mind. I could almost see Mia's face lighting up with joy, hear her teasing laughter dancing on the edges of twilight, feel the comfort of her hand in mine as we navigated through the turbulence of life that I felt Alex joining me, our minds stitching the vivid memories into a tapestry of strength, creating a shield against the dark tide. "Mia, we're still here," we both shouted, the words resonating through the shifting shadows. It was an invocation. We called to her, reaching through the depths so tightly woven with fear. For an ephemeral moment, the darkness hesitated, hovering above us like an angry storm cloud. A flicker of familiarity surged where despair had once taken root, the faintest hint of her presence, a warmth brushing against the chill. But then the shadows roared back, more ferocious than before, furious at our defiance. I felt my heart plummet as they coiled around us, grating against our bond. Fragments of memories were torn from the anchor we built, slipping through our fingers like water. The light dims as the tempest closed in. "Mia," I cried again, a desperation spilling from me as shards of regret sliced through the solace we'd carved out. "Please, we need you." In that disorienting moment, the malevolence cracked, and a flash of light broke through the encroaching darkness, an implosion of luminous shards cascading around us. I squinted against the brilliance and saw a swirling vortex of light emerging where the shadows clashed. It felt like a beacon tugging at the remnants of my heart, pulling me towards something vast and profound. "Up, go," Alex urged, his voice a fierce command. "We need to reach that light." Together, we began to push against the undulating waves, every ounce of our being focused on that single luminous point amidst the chaos. It felt like trudging through molasses, the shadows biting at our heels, clawing desperately to pull us back into the abyss. "Hold on to each other," Alex shouted, and I grasped his hand tightly, anchoring myself in the promise of our connection. Just as we closed in on the light, the darkness roared, a visceral sound that reverberated through my entire being. It reached into the depths of my mind, unearthing every insecurities, every regret, and spun them into barbed whispers, each one laced with MIA's absence. And then, like a trap snapping shut, a frigid silence fell around us, with the shadows swirling in tighter, encasing us like a hungry serpent. The tendrils of despair caressed my skin, and for a heart-wrenching moment, I could feel them tightening, suffocating my resolve. It whispered accusations, drew on our vulnerabilities, and carved my fears into tangible pain that I faltered, a shudder running through my body. But Alex's grip never wavered, his thumb brushing over my knuckles with a gentle urgency. "We keep moving. Focus." With a deep inhale, I tapped into the reservoir of our memories, digging deeper for the endless moments we cherished. "We are still here," I declared defiantly, the words tumbling into the void where darkness surged. Suddenly, a burst of warmth surged within my chest. The light we conjured began to pulse with life, vibrant tendrils reaching heavenward, illuminating the shadows that sought to envelop us. "Mia," I screamed, believing, entreating, transcending the fear of losing her to rekindle the potency of our bond. But just as the brightness threatened to pierce through the dark storm, a chilling realization struck, freezing my heart in dread. From the depths of the shadows, a voice emerged, a piercing echo that reverberated with cruel familiarity. "You fool. Did you really think you could conquer what you've lost?" The words hung in the air, heavy with truth, grating painfully against my spirit. I stared into the swirling darkness, horrified, and for one irretrievable moment, doubt seeped in like a poison, coiling tightly around my resolve. Would the light be enough to bring her back? Would it be enough to save us both? And before I could grasp the answer, the ground trembled again, sending shudders through my bones. And with it came the horrific realization that the void we faced was more than mere shadows. It was a manifestation of our fiercer, greater challenge that would redefine us completely. In that instant, the light flickered, waning against the onslaught of darkness looming around us. And I understood, beneath that weight of despair, that the path ahead would demand sacrifices I wasn't yet prepared to make. "Together," I whispered, though my heart trembled. The ice of uncertainty gnawed at my courage, pulling me into the depths of what we had yet to confront. As the darkness surged forward, winds howling and the tempest roared to life, I squeezed Alex's hand tighter, ready to face the heart of that storm, clinging desperately to the hope that our journey was far from over. While the shadow beckoned, weaving a narrative so intricate and deadly, I finally came to a harrowing conclusion. it was never merely about fighting for light. It was also about confronting the darkness within us that craved to take hold. Could we conquer what we feared most? Or would the very essence of what we shared be consumed by that which we swore to escape? The air crackled with tension, each breath laden with the electric hum of uncertainty. I was acutely aware of every heartbeat, thrumming in synchrony with the oppressive shadows that threatened to swallow us whole. As I stood there, tethered to Alex with a grip that felt increasingly desperate, I realized that this was no mere battle against shadows. It was an existential war between hope and despair, love and loss. Mia, I breathed, her name a whisper that slipped through the cracks of my resolve. The futility of it washed over me like a cold tide, and for a fleeting second, the weight of my regrets pressed down harder than the darkness surrounding us. I could almost feel her absence like a phantom limb, a part of me that should have been there warm and vital now hauntingly absent. But as I searched the depths of the void, an ember of hope flickered anew, an intrinsic fire, ignited by the collective memories between us. Moments trivial to some, pivotal to our connection. The day we spent collecting smooth stones by the lake, the time she had sung in the shower, her laughter ringing through the halls of our shared home. Each fragment echoed in my heart, urging me to summon the strength to fight against the despair closing in. Eli, Alex's voice cut through my reverie, his eyes shining with a fierce determination. We have to remember what we're fighting for. I nodded, allowing myself to dwell on the weight of our shared memories, even as shadows threatened to shatter my concentration. You're right, I said, voice steadied by a fierce flicker of defiance. We can't give in. We must push through. We stood resolute against the tide of darkness, and for a moment, the shadows hesitated, recoiling as if we had struck them. Each fragile beam of light we conjured lent clarity to the chaos, revealing more than just our fears. It uncovered the tenderness of our past, raw and revealing, shaped by both joy and sorrow. But the moment was ephemeral, a brief lull before the tempest returned, sharper and angrier, a suffocating miasma laced with doubt. I felt my heart race with the fading warmth of hope, as if the light we summoned was a mere flicker against the oppressive weight of despair. A soft, chilling voice began to echo from within the shadows, weaving a narrative that pricked at my resolve. You have no power here, Eli, it crooned, seductive and familiar, pulling at the threads of my past like an enchanting siren. Your precious memories are nothing but frail illusions. Cherish them while you can, they will crumble beneath despair. My mind spiraled, the weight of those words seeping into my veins. Memories began to blur, each laughter morphing into a ghostly whisper, filled with the sharp sting of regret. Unshed tears threatened to spill forth. What if you're right? I gasped, vulnerability stealing my breath. What if it wasn't enough? Alex's grip on my hand tightened, grounding me against the swell of self-doubt. Don't listen to it, Eli. The darkness is lying. Remember, those memories are our shield, our armor against the chaos. His words reignited the fire within me, fueling my fight against the whispers clawing at my mind. Shaking off the fragile grasp of despair, I focused on Mia again. Would she stand here and let the shadows claim us? The answer was as clear as the autumn sky, infused with all the laughter and love we had built together. With renewed conviction, I shouted into the void, Mia, we're coming for you. We will find you. We remember. We refuse to be consumed. And suddenly, the lights surged brighter, piercing through the dark coven of shadows, illuminating my path. I could feel Mia's essence swirling in that radiant beam, her spirit woven into the very fabric of our love. But just as I felt the tide of hope swell, I realized the shadows weren't finished with us yet. The ground beneath our feet quaked violently, as if the void itself felt threatened by our defiance. Eli, Alex shouted, holding steady against the violent tremors. We need to keep pushing. We pressed forward, inching closer to the radiant vortex of light, when the shadows recoiled suddenly, revealing something shocking. A visage emerged from the depths, one that sent shivers down my spine. It was Mia, or rather, a likeness of her, twisted and distorted, her features contorted into a grimace of anguish. I stumbled back, heart faltering as her spectral form pierced through my heart. Eli, help me, Mia, is that you? I gasped, straining against the onslaught of chaos. The twisted specter of her face morphed into something unrecognizable, as if her very essence was fighting against the darkness that sought to consume it. Eli, you must choose, she screamed, her voice laced with anguish that both stirred my heart and terrified me. You can't let the darkness win. Not this time. The implications of her words struck me like lightning. I faced an impossible choice, to free her or to sacrifice everything we had built. The chilling truth hung in the air, palpable and suffocating, an unearthly test of love layered with stakes I had never even imagined. Eli, Alex urged, pulling me closer, his gaze flicking nervously between the shimmering light and the terrifying specter of Mia. Don't let it trap you. Focus. Remember who you are. As I wrestled with the weight of her plea, the shadows began to close in, thickening around us like a dark fog. But just beyond that spectral figure, I could see a glimpse of pure, radiant light. The hope flickering there was a beacon, a lifeline stretched into the abyss. But what would it cost? Mia, I called, voice trembling, the depth of my love and desperation crashing against the relentless tide. Would I be enough? Would my fight for her be the weapon to carve through the darkness and bring her back? And as the shadows surged, wrapping around me, funneling the fear and despair into a storm so vast, I came to an agonizing realization. This was only the beginning of a journey that could either bind us together or tear us apart forever. In that moment, as despair reached out, the silence deepened, and uncertainty entwined with hope, I was faced with the terrifying fork in the road that could either lead us to salvation or the complete unraveling of our very souls. Would I have the strength to make the ultimate sacrifice? Or would fear chain me to the very shadows I sought to escape? The shadows pulsed, their swirling masses seeming to breathe like a living organism hungry for my vulnerability. Mia's spectral figure flickered, a fragile candle in an unrelenting tempest, and every ounce of my soul screamed for her to break free from the chains that bound her to this darkness. Eli, please. Her voice was a haunting echo, peeling away at the layers of my determination. You have to decide. Every moment counts. Each word reverberated in my heart, a heartbeat echoing my desperate longing. But the paralyzing weight of fear tried to pull me further into the abyss. How could I choose? How could I sacrifice parts of myself in hopes of saving her? Focus on the light, Eli. Alex yelled again, urgency lacing his voice as he held his ground against the relentless shadowy tide. It's not just about her. It's about you. It's about us. Remember what we fought for. With every word, each memory of our shared laughter and warmth surged back, like an unstoppable wave crashing over my doubt. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the imagery wash over me, two of us dancing in the kitchen, lost between flower-covered counters and our own laughter, nights spent gazing at stars, and all the long talks where the world faded away, leaving just us. Mia, I shouted, my voice raw with emotion as I made eye contact with the twisted version of her. I won't leave you. I won't let your light be snuffed out. The shadows recoiled slightly, a subtle shift indicating my words had pierced through, igniting some flicker of connection. Mia's face softened momentarily, revealing the warmth that I had fought to hold on to. But in the same breath, her form contorted back into anguish, the darkness clawing at her edges like a predator circling. Eli, she urged again, her eyes a marbled pool of desperation and fear. You have to trust that love can break through this darkness. You need to let go of your fears. I felt Alex's grip tighten. Look, the light. It's growing. It was faint but unmistakable. The radiant beam grew stronger, pulsating almost in rhythm with my heart. But the darkness clung to me like tar, and I struggled to push through. Every breath felt like a battle, weighed down with the gravity of my indecision. Remember, Eli, Alex's voice broke, urgency weaving through his words. You've always been the strongest among us. Don't forget that. Those simple words stirred something deep within me, a spark that answered with a whisper of resilience buried beneath the layers of fear. I thought of all the moments we shared, the echoes of laughter, the ways Mia had inspired change and growth within me, igniting a fire that had slowly dimmed during this brutal journey. The realization crashed over me like a waterfall. My fear of loss was also rooted in a fear of letting the shadows win, winning over not just my love for Mia, but also the strength of who I was. Suddenly, a gut-wrenching choice formed before me. I could choose to face my fears, to embrace the deep pain of loss and hope, or I could turn back, retreat into the shadows, and pretend Mia hadn't left an indelible mark on my soul. Steadying myself, I shouted into the swirling void, I choose hope. I choose her. I choose all of us. At my declaration, the darkness shuddered violently, as if a beast had been struck. The specter of Mia crackled with energy a moment where the anguish faded, replaced with an unsettling tranquility. Her lips curled into a smile, radiant even in pain. You'll always find your way back to love, Eli. Always. With those words, the lights surged to life, illuminating the space around us with a brilliance that burned away the shadows' coils like morning sun piercing through a winter fog. It broke the spell, and for a fleeting moment, I glimpsed my beloved, her vibrant self flickering just beyond the reach of darkness, a beacon of everything I fought for. But then the void released an enraged howl, and everything quaked violently once more, the echoes of the past becoming a deafening roar. Shadows lunged at me with terrifying vigor, surging to reclaim their lost grasp. Eli, Alex's voice strained, panic, overshadowing his strength. It's not over. You can't give up now, Mia, I cried out, reaching with every fiber of my being toward her, desperate to bridge the gap amid the chaos. I had defied the darkness, but this battle was far from over. And then came the revelation that shattered me behind the radiant light and Mia's charm. I caught another figure emerging, shrouded in shadow but undeniably familiar. Terror coiled like a serpent in my gut. No, I gasped, my heart racing. It couldn't be. The shadows smirked, and the truth drifting through the hazy chaos crushed me. I faced not just my love but a specter tainted with betrayal, a figure that shattered my last threads of certainty. Let me introduce you to your greatest fear, Eli. The voice echoed, soft then venomous, slithering through the air like smoke curling into the corners of my mind. Your own heart, fractured by loss. It's time for you to decide who you will become. As despair wrapped around me once more, I realized the battle was never simply against the shadows, but rather a reckoning with my own spirit, love, and choices before me. This was the true test, the defining moment where the light would either crumble or ignite into flames. Would I rise, or would I succumb to the darkness threatening to engulf the remnants of the love I had fought so hard for? The shadows loomed around us, undulating with an icy rage that seemed to feed on my vulnerability. As Mia's specter shimmered dimly, echoes of our laughter warped into anguished cries, threatening to drown me in their sorrow. Eli, I need you to fight, she pleaded, her silhouette wavering like a candle in a storm. Fight, I echoed, disbelief flooding my veins. The shadows danced around me, taunting, morphing into flickers of my past guilt and regret. How can I? What if I lose everything? Then we rebuild, Alex's voice rang out, fierce and steady amidst the chaos. You've faced darkness before, and each time, you emerged stronger. This is no different. His words cut through the haze of despair, igniting an ember of courage nestled within the depths of my heart. I turned to the spectral version of Mia, tears blurring my vision. You're more than what the shadows show, Mia. You are the laughter, the joy, the spark of light in every corner of my soul. I refuse to let the darkness take that from us. As I spoke, the light began to swell around us, curling like tendrils of warmth against the oppressive cold. The shadows shrieked, recoiling, as if they could feel the tide of hope shifting. I could feel the tether of our shared memories weaving around us, thickening into an armor drawn from both love and determination. Focus on the love, I urged, feeling the strength of Alex beside me, each heartbeat resonating in unison. Let's show them just how powerful hope can be. With that, I closed my eyes, reaching deep within for every memory that painted our connect-ion, a mosaic of laughter under starlit skies, the shared moments that stitched our hearts together, the unguarded vulnerability in whispered conversations. I could almost hear the echoes of our past. We can conquer anything together. The warmth surged within, pushing back against the shadows that writhed in opposition, clawing at the cracks of my resolve. Together always, I whispered, as light brightened in response, wild and unyielding, a beacon igniting a fierce rebellion against darkness that I opened my eyes to see Mia's form illuminating, expelled from the vicious grasp of shadows, and reviving as the essence I cherished. The spectral echo of herself shivered, caught between desperation and hope. "You're right," she breathed, her voice fluttering like the wings of a bird set free. "I am not just a reflection of fear. I am made of light, of love." Heart pounding, I felt the shadows retreat, the darkness stammering against the force of our collective resolve. "Fight for us, not just me," Mia urged again, her spirit flickering brighter now as threads of light entwined around her like ivy, stretching toward the darkness. "With every piece of me," I shouted, drawing closer together, wrapping around each other's hands as our shared memories bloomed in a radiant tapestry of hope. Each flutter of laughter, every moment of joy surged like waves crashing against despair, each recalling who we were beneath the weight of our struggles. But then I saw a twisted figure wreathed in shadows, a ghostly visage of betrayal and heartbreak. It rose threateningly from the depths, seeking to reclaim its dominion over my heart. "You think love can conquer this?" It hissed, slithering through the air, seeking to suffocate the light we forged. "That I know it can," I shouted defiantly, unleashing every ounce of strength coiled within my heart. "I will face this darkness, not alone, but with the light that we share." The shadows recoiled, a raw howl echoing through the stillness, revealing the vulnerability lurking beneath their clutches. "You'll never escape. Watch me," I said resolutely as I reached for the pulsing warmth within my chest that danced along the threads of hope. The light blazed brighter, our memories merging into Oni's surge of comfort and acceptance radiating through every crack of despair as the shadows shielded tight around me. I felt Mia's hand slip into mine, solid and unwavering. "Together, Eli. We finished this together." With our hearts entwined, we surged forward, a force of unyielding light against the encroaching darkness. I could feel the shadows trembling, unraveling as the warmth spread with every breath we took, resonating with hope and love that transcended our fears. We reached for each other, intertwining our energies and allowing the memories to chart the course. The figure before me faltered, the malevolence melting away beneath the brilliance we cultivated. And then, glimmers of clarity blossomed, illuminating the path leading us through the shadows. "Eli, trust in us," Mia echoed, her belief kindling a fire that overwhelmed the remnants of fear lingering in the abyss. As I took one final step, a roar of defiance erupted from within, the collective essence of our fight breaking free like wildflowers pushing through concrete. I felt every inch of darkness give way beneath our bond, the shadows dissolving into dust, scattering in the winds as light spilled into every crevice. And just as I was about to succumb to the embrace of the light, a parting thought wrestled with my heart. Did I truly believe in my ability to emerge whole? The answer echoed against the darkness, and through the light around us, it would face my fears, return to the love that fanned these flames of hope within me. The shadows shrieked, dissolving into nothing, as Mia and I, unified, rose from the depths. And in that pivotal moment, bathed in the glow of everything we had conquered, I caught a glimpse of the realization that had eluded me for so long. Love, acceptance, and hope were not merely shields. They were the very essence of who we truly were, the radiant hearts drawn together, resilient against the fiercest storms. As we emerged into a realm woven with ethereal light and the scent of new beginnings, I took Mia's hand, feeling the warmth spread through us. The darkness, though always lurking in the corners of our mind, no longer held the same weight. We had transformed it into something we could bear together. "Are you ready to reclaim our story?" I whispered, gazing into her eyes filled with newfound light, and I saw it reflected back, echoing the love that tethered our hearts. "Yes, together," she replied, her smile radiant against the light that enveloped us. As we stepped forward into the dawn of a new beginning, I realized that each heartache only intensified the brilliance of the light we carried within. I knew we would move forward, hand in hand, each step a proclamation of hope threaded stronger than ever before. "Together is where we find the strength to conquer anything," I murmured, awash in the beauty of our unmistakable connection. The journey had shaped us. It would continue to shape us. But I learned the most vital truth, that love finds a way, and hope is the very heart that guides us home. And as we stepped into the horizon where the light danced and beckoned, I felt the shadows of yesterday fade, giving way to the promise of tomorrow. With our hands clasped tightly, we took that first step, echoing softly into the silence. Let's go build our story.